Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Wednesday, July 16th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. When it comes to summer camp, you've likely heard of nature camps, science camps, even a local Taylor Swift camp. But in Fresno, a group of high school students is taking on a musical genre with deep roots.
Because mixing in the old with the new, despite not being as quite traditional, can be started for new generations to come and be considered traditional.
Coming up, we go inside a rehearsal room where students are putting a modern twist on classical mariachi music. But first, these news headlines. A new report from UC Merced is showing the likely effects of immigration raids on California's economy. KVPR's Joshua Yeager reports the study found one of the sharpest spikes in unemployment in half a century.
Private sector employment fell just over 3% from May through June. It may not sound like much, but Edward Flores says that's a huge jump when it comes to employment figures. The UC Merced researcher authored the study using Census Bureau data.
We have not seen an increase in unemployment across the U.S. of that magnitude, with the exception of the second month of the pandemic or the first year of the Great Recession.
The data comes from a census survey conducted in early June, when National Guard troops were deployed to Los Angeles in response to anti-ICE protests. So Flores says it's fair to connect these shifts to President Trump's immigration agenda.
Given that Congress has authorized a radical increase in the amount of funding for immigration enforcement, we should be anticipating numbers such as these or even greater moving forward.
And employees without legal status are more vulnerable, Flores argues, because they don't qualify for many safety net services. For KVPR News, I'm Joshua Yeager in Bakersfield.
The husband of a Kern County supervisor remains behind bars. Fernando Jara was formally charged on Tuesday with making criminal threats, child cruelty, and resisting arrest. Jara is married to District 5 Supervisor Leticia Perez, who narrowly won re-election to a fourth term last year. Police were called to their Bakersfield home on Sunday. That's where authorities allege Jara threatened other people in the home and an EMT at the scene. Police say a SWAT team was called after Jara refused to leave. He was eventually taken into custody with, quote, minimal force. Jara's bail is now set at $100,000. A Visalia man died while hiking in a remote area of Sequoia National Park this week. Authorities identified the hiker as Dew Hall. He was a longtime basketball coach and PE teacher at Golden West High School in Visalia. A search and rescue team recovered Hall's body on Monday below Sawtooth Peak, a remote trail known for treacherous conditions. He'd been hiking alone. This is the fifth death inside the park this year so far, according to park officials. The only rare earths mine in the United States is in California's Mojave Desert. Its operator, MP Materials, announced it has signed a major deal with Apple. Lisa Dwyer with the Associated Press tells us about the deal, worth $500 million.
The agreement aims to boost production of magnets used in iPhones, as well as other high-tech products like electric vehicles. The U.S. Defense Department announced a $400 million investment in MP Materials last week. China dominates the market for rare earth elements, which are vital for military and tech applications. MP Materials plans to expand its Texas factory to use recycled materials and produce magnets for Apple by 2027, further reducing U.S. reliance on Chinese supplies. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
CAL FIRE recently deployed two of its new Hercules air tankers to help fight the Max fire in Fresno County. The tankers have dropped nearly 50,000 gallons of retardant. The Max fire has burned over 400 acres in a mostly undeveloped area north of Pine Flat Lake. Smoke from the fire has turned the air quality hazardous across the Fresno metro region. The cause of the fire is under investigation.
Support for Central Valley Daily comes from the members of KVPR. Join at $8 or more per month and access ad-free NPR podcasts through NPR Plus. Give now at kvpr.org/donate.
And now to our main story. In the summertime, when students are not in school, they typically attend any number of camps. It can be outdoors in nature, a science-focused one like robotics, or a niche one like a Taylor Swift camp. But in Fresno, a group of high schoolers took time this summer to study a musical genre with deep cultural roots, and they got to add their own fresh take to it too. Esther Quintanilla, with our partner, the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, got to sit in on a rehearsal.
1 and a 2 and a go.
Inside a music room at Fresno City College, violins are warming up. One might think they're part of a classical orchestra, but then they break into this song. This is traditional mariachi music, and 15 high school students are here as part of the Fresno County Summer Arts Academy. Together, they're called Mariachi Unidos. Mariachi dates back generations. It became prominent in the Jalisco region of Mexico after France conquered the country in the 1860s. It's said that the French hired musicians to play the music at weddings. But after the Mexican Revolution, the genre became a hallmark of Mexican independence, like this classic song, La Negra. This tradition appeals to Isa Ceballos. She's an incoming freshman at Bullard High School. She enrolled because she wanted to learn more about her Mexican ancestry.
Because mariachi is a very old thing. It's very classic, very traditional, very don't mess around with it, don't play with it too much.
But she is playing with it. Ceballos plays the saxophone, a very non-traditional instrument in mariachi. And that's part of the point of this class, to put a modern spin on mariachi. The students aren't just learning to play this music, but also to compose it, with new instruments, new themes, and even some songs in English.
Because mixing in the old with the new, despite not being as quite traditional, can be started for new generations to come and be considered traditional.
Go ahead and put your instruments away for now. Pull out.
The program is led by Omar Nare and Pamela Galicia, two lifelong local mariacheros. They both teach and perform around the San Joaquin Valley. This is the program's second year. Galicia says the students love it, and that it connects many of them to their cultural roots.
I think it's absolutely intergenerational. It helps them to not only connect with the past, but also here in the present.
Nare says mariachi is an essential part of the Mexican lifestyle.
For the same reason that we're going to keep tacos alive and enchiladas and mole, we need to keep mariachi alive because it's part of us.
The group performed their compositions at a showcase a few weeks ago. They commanded the stage with embroidered black and gold suits, and they debuted a new song called Forever and a Day. It's a somber piece in the bolero style, slow and emotional. For many, it symbolizes the loss of life and faith. But it was especially meaningful for Ash Reyes, an incoming junior at Roosevelt High. She sings and plays violin.
I play it to connect with my family. It was a really good connection with me and my dad.
He introduced her to mariachi when she was a kid, but he recently passed.
It was a lot of emotion, and thinking about him while playing it or singing it is really emotional, but it's nice to be doing that.
Their final piece was a song written in the 1800s. It's called Ya no sé si me quieres, which in English means, I don't know if you love me anymore. They transformed it into a modern, uplifting cumbia. The second it's over, the audience jumps in applause, fully embracing new performers of this old genre.
Keep it going for Mariachi Unidos.
With the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative for KVPR, I'm Esther Quintanilla.
And Esther's here with me now to tell us a little more about her reporting. Hey, Esther.
Hey, Liz.
Okay, so to start, I'd like to say that this new take on mariachi music really surprised me. For instance, the idea of using a saxophone really stood out to me because that's an instrument that I think is often associated with jazz music. So what other instruments were used to sort of create this new mariachi sound?
Yeah, didn't they sound great in the audio? Like, I was really blown away going into the rehearsal with them and then hearing them at that final performance. Like, all of their passion just really shone through their performance. So it was just amazing. The saxophone, like you said, is probably the most untraditional instrument that was used in Mariachi Unidos. But inside the classroom, there were trumpets, violins, classic guitar, a bass guitar called la guitarrón that's, very famous in mariachi. And, the genre and bands in mariachi are really famous for their strings to add all of that beautiful texture and layering in the sound. So a lot of other traditional groups will use like a harp or an accordion to really add to that listening experience. So there's just a variety of ways that, a lot of the instrumentation can go, but it's just beautiful all around.
Yeah, and then at the very end of your story, you mentioned a piece written centuries ago that the students then transformed into sort of a dancey, modern cumbia. Tell us more about how they came upon that song and decided to modernize it in that way.
Yeah, so the song is called Ya no sé si me quieres, which in English translates to I don't know if you love me anymore. It's a song that Omar Narea found in an old songbook from back when California was still Mexican territory called California. Omar said that it's likely that the song hadn't been heard or performed since it was written nearly a century ago. I tried to look it up for myself just to see if there was any recordings, and I couldn't find anything online, so it's very likely that that's the case. The song, at least based on its lyrics, was originally intended to be sung in a very slow, romantic bolero style, but the students decided to revamp it and turn it into a dance song in cumbia to kind of breathe that new life into it. So that transformation alone really shows the intent of the class. It's, taking a modern spin into these very classical songs. And, it was a crowd pleaser. Everyone in the audience was jumping in applause and cheering when it was performed, and it was just beautiful to see.
Tell us a little more about mariachi music in general, because especially regarding the name of that song you mentioned, it sounds like there's storytelling involved and that this music can be quite emotional.
Yeah, to me, the best mariachi songs are those that really take the listener on a journey. And a lot of the times it can be a really emotional journey. So with Spanish as a romance language, you get a lot of that storytelling that surrounds itself over yearning and longing. Artists like José José, Vicente Fernández, Luis Miguel. Of course, the title of the song, Ya no sé si me quieres, I don't know if you love me anymore. All of these works are very famous for their vivid storytelling. And my personal favorite of them was one that Luis Miguel covered back in the 90s called Sabor a mí. It translates to Taste of Me. So it talks about, the last time a person is going to see their love and to remember their time together, to reminisce on kisses. So it can get very romantic, very emotional, and very vulnerable in the genre. And, when the kids were writing their song, their original song that they sung in the story, a lot of them joked around that the tone was going to be very depressing, that, the topic that they were writing about a loss of faith was going to be too heavy and they were going to have to really emphasize on that. But, they were able to end on a very hopeful note that looks toward the future. So, a lot of these topics are very heavy and emotional, but there's a lot of, playing around with the themes that a writer can do.
Yeah. So if someone wanted their child to participate in a program like this or the next time it comes around, is there somewhere they can find more information?
Yeah, so they can find any details about the program by going to the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools' website or the Fresno County Summer Arts Academy website.
Okay. Esther Quintanilla, reporter with the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. Always nice to have you in the studio.
Yeah, it's always great to be here.
And that's today's show. Do you have a musical group or band you think is worth featuring? Don't be afraid to reach out to us. Just email us at podcast@kvpr.org. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden, Carrie Klein, and KVPR, with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.